There's a lot of information, probably too much to cover in an hour and a half, which is why you have the handouts. I'm going to do the best I can to cover the types of things that you have to think about. The real issue with college planning is that there is no perfect plan. Counselors have ideas, parents have ideas, particularly if you've sent one child to college already, you have those set of experiences. The worst group, though, are young people. Young people have a lot of ideas about college planning, and they get all their information from their friends who really don't know anything. So, but trying to have this conversation is oftentimes difficult because everyone speaks from their experiences. So I'm going to speak from my 30 years of experiences. My wife and I, we work with, on average, maybe 800 or 900 students a year throughout the country. We've been working with our high school seniors now. Every day we get a text message or an email about a financial aid offer that has come in and the college acceptance. So I'm going to share some of those examples as I go as well. This is really the illustration. The day after high school, your young people have these basic options. They either enlist in the military, they go to work, or they go to college. Now, they may take a gap year, but that gap year is probably planned with the idea of going to college. It's the college choices that everyone talks about, but no one really wants to plan for. Four-year college, university, community college. Many young people think community college is a step backwards, so they don't even want to have that conversation. They oftentimes don't even want to have the conversation until senior year. We have many seniors who didn't do any planning, they just did school. So I want to talk about these types of things that ultimately will relate to those types of pathways after high school. I think this video clip is a good example of why we don't really engage in the college planning conversation, because it's not a common conversation. Here's our challenge. Many of the young people, I watched them when they came in tonight. Many of the young people who say they want to go to college, they gave you grief coming tonight. They didn't even want to come. I saw some of them come in, put their head down. Why do I have to be here? Because the way that our young people normally go through school, it's only about, do I have to do that? Am I going to get a grade? I don't get a grade for going to that presentation tonight. Why didn't they give me extra credit? So here's the problem. When this is the system that they are accustomed to, they are not being prepared to be competitive candidates for college, because colleges are looking for just the opposite. Colleges are looking for students who can engage in critical thinking and have an intrinsic desire to know. One of the things that will get a college admissions officer's attention is when a teacher writes in their recommendation letter that the student is intellectually curious, that the student is engaged in the learning process, that the student is engaged in the classroom discussion. The ability to communicate written and orally. Most of the high school seniors that we work with, they do not have any chance whatsoever at receiving many of the scholarships that they apply for, because they cannot write. Most of the scholarships and the college applications, they will provide a word prompt with 3 embedded prompts. Why did you do that? What did you learn? How are you going to apply it in the future? Many of the high school seniors that we work with, they will respond to the first prompt and they forget the other 2, because they have been allowed to write in a manner that is not high-level writing. And so they apply for scholarships that they have no chance of getting. They apply to colleges. They have absolutely no chance of being offered admission. Creativity and ingenuity. So tonight, when we talk about coursework, we really want to talk about what are your gifts and your talents, and how can you utilize your course-taking opportunities to maximize your gifts and talents. For example, when there are Spanish-speaking students in the school who are already bilingual, what we always say to them is you should definitely be in the AP pipeline for AP Spanish, because now you have this unique opportunity to take AP Language Arts and AP Spanish, and you have the opportunity to read and to write in multiple languages. That increases your value as a college applicant. Many of the selective schools, they are admitting huge number of students internationally, globally. So then a student needs to have the opportunity to communicate in multiple languages. The ability to set and pursue personal goals. This is really a challenge with young people, is that they don't start the school year with their own goals. So what I want to talk about tonight is what happens with those young people who do. And I have some examples that I'm going to share with you. What happens when a young person starts ninth grade and says, I want to take the most rigorous course schedule, I want to get A's in all of my classes, and then at the end of the first semester, I'm going to assess how well I did first semester, and I'm going to adjust my course schedule accordingly for the second semester. And then the ability to self-assess, make adjustments, and refine goals. College, pardon me. There is no expectation that the young people who are here tonight have to be gifted in everything. But colleges and scholarship providers are looking for students who are exceptional in something. So if you are an exceptional athlete, if you are an exceptional dancer, if you are just exceptional academically, if you are an exceptional artist, if you are an exceptional pianist. So it really is looking at exceptional in community service. We have students all the time who compete for these highly selective scholarships. And when they walk into the room, they realize that most of the students who are in the room have founded a nonprofit organization. They have been engaged in community service at their church for 7 years or more. So these are all things that I want to talk about and that I want you to give some thought to. So that program, you can only attend it during the summer between your junior and your senior year of high school. So if you are thinking strategically, then when you graduate from the 8th grade, then you should plan each summer, the summer between 8th and 9th, 9th and 10th, 10th and 11th, 11th and 12th. Now, some people will say, oh, Mr. Wynn, that program is probably expensive. I don't know what the program costs, but what I do know is that there are a lot of programs that offer scholarships and a lot of programs that are not expensive. But the idea is if you immerse yourself in those types of programs over the summer, you increase your competitiveness as a college applicant because you've engaged in a type of learning that colleges want students to engage in. But again, that means that you got to be thinking. Every student who came into the room tonight, you ought to have some sort of dreams and aspirations. What is it that you are good at? What is it that you love to do? Why do you even want to go to college? You know, do you want to go to college just to get a job, or do you want to go to college to pursue some passionate area of interest? These are all really important questions for you to think about. And when you start to look at your course schedule over 4 years, all of these types of programs must be placed within the context of where you want to go. I mean, this is really the issue. The real issue is that when you start 9th grade, where are you intending to go? It's one thing to say, I want to go to college. But for example, MIT and Caltech are the number 1 and 2 engineering programs in the United States. So if you want to go to MIT and you start 9th grade and you say, I want to go to MIT, well, then you should have a 4-year plan designed to get you into MIT. If you want to go to North Carolina A&T, a 4-year plan at Texas A&M, it doesn't matter. The point is, you got to decide where is it that I really want to go and how do I want to position myself. There was a student at Yale who spoke with an admissions officer. And she asked the admission officer at Yale, she said, should I take a regular class and get an A? Should I take an honors class and get a B? Or should I take an AP class and get a C? Well, Yale is clear. He said you should take AP classes and get A's. So if you want to go to Yale, that's the standard. Now, if you can't meet that standard, then you must be exceptional in something else. So these are all things that are really important as you just start to consider it. And here in Guilford County, you have many options. You know the North Carolina graduation requirements, at least you should. Pardon me, any exit exam requirements. And then you have different types of secondary school options from traditional schools to middle colleges. Your issue is your high school course schedule should be developed within this context. That's what I'm talking about, the context. That you should have identified the types of colleges and universities that you want to pursue, what type of grades and coursework and test scores are those colleges expecting, what level of classes can you attain a final grade or B or better, which classes are more likely to result in course credit, the colleges you want to attend, which educational pathway, 2-year, 4-year, or beyond, is consistent with the career pathway you wish to pursue? These are important questions. Now, no one is expecting parents to know all of this, but it's important to have the conversation. So if there were students, wherever I go throughout the country, let me just ask this question. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Harvard. Okay? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Williams College. Okay? Bowdoin. Pomona. See, most people know the brands. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Cornell, Columbia. There are some extraordinary college opportunities for everyone in this room, but it really requires engaging in research on the front end to decide on the back end, where do you think you want to go? You all have this handout, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. What I want to, as a matter of fact, I'll just look at so I'll turn around. When you look at this, it says these are the North Carolina standards. North Carolina standards is what you need to do to graduate from high school to North Carolina. But beyond the North Carolina standards, what are the colleges looking for? So for example, in North Carolina, you're only required to have 4 credits of English. But if you want to go to college to become a writer or to major in the humanities, and you take an AP class over the summer, and then you're at 5, and then the next summer you go off to a writing camp and you take a class, then you're at 6, and then the next summer you go to another program, and then you're at 7. You realize that you can use your course schedule to make you so much more competitive than everyone else. But what about math and science? We talk all the time about STEM. But what if you have the opportunity, instead of 4 credits of math, you graduate with 8 credits of math and science? That over the summer, you take another math, and then you go to a summer program that has, you heard the program at MIT. They talked about the students taking calculus and taking physics and other science classes. And those are classes they receive credit for. So the students who are in that program between 11th and 12th grade, not only do they receive credit, but they have demonstrated that they can perform at the highest level in that level of coursework. Every college, or at least all the major universities, they publish a common data set. So this common data set is UNC Chapel Hill. Now, what the common data set tells us is who gets in. Every year when colleges, students apply for admission, and they decide who gets in, then they publish this data. This is the data that you see on all these different websites that you may go to. So in this common data set, it's very clear. They say, okay, look, we expect you to have 4 units of English, 4 of math, 3 science, with 1 lab, 2 foreign languages, 1 social studies, and 1 history. Now that's what they say is the minimum. That's what they're expecting. But then, further down in their common data set, they also tell you what's important in admissions at UNC Chapel Hill. They say at UNC Chapel Hill, what's very important? The rigor of your school, your academic GPA, your standardized test scores, your essay, your recommendation. And what is important? Your class rank. Everything else, they just consider it. So if you start 9th grade and you want to go to UNC Chapel Hill, it tells you right here. It tells you what's important. So now you have 4 years of high school to do what you need to do to become a competitive candidate to be admitted there. But you can do this with any college and university. The question that I always ask is, what's the highest level of coursework that a student can earn a B or higher? And that's because you should challenge yourself, but challenge yourself where you can be successful. So for example, our oldest son, brilliant artist, very good at math and science, took AP coursework in math and science, but AP US history, it was a killer for him. His teacher was gracious in allowing him to leave the class mid-year. He just being a 3-sport varsity athlete, it was just too much reading and too much writing. So we had to look at his coursework within context. So what I want to encourage all the parents and all the students to look at, What can you do that you can be successful? But again, it comes back in context. So for example, if you are planning to attend community college, do you need to take all of the AP classes at your high school? No. If you're planning to attend a school that's not a selective school, it means that the admission rate is over 60 or 70%. Do you need to go through high school and kill yourself taking all AP classes? No. But if you want to attend Duke or UNC Chapel Hill or Davidson, or Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Amherst or Williams, or those types of schools, Johns Hopkins, Emory, then you're going to have to push yourself because that's what they're expecting. I want you to look at how they will look at you as a high school senior who has applied to college. Tonight, we're talking primarily about grades and test scores and, and course taking. Grades and test scores and course taking. But there are a lot of... Okay. Testing, but okay. We're talking about grades, classes, coursework, and test scores. But as you heard, there are a lot of other factors that will go into this. So this is just one piece. Actually, when you talk about getting admitted to a college, here's some of the other pieces that we're not even dealing with tonight. Your resume, your recommendation letters, your community service, your leadership, your engagement in your school, in addition to the classes, your summer programs, and your story. For a student who doesn't have the highest grades and highest test scores, but they've been displaced because they're a military family, or a student has overcome unique hardships, all of those things figure into your story. So again, the conversation is much more expansive than what we will have time to talk about tonight. But every college will tell you what they're looking for. So the point that I'm making is that when you go home tonight, identify a group of schools that you're interested in applying to, whether you're a high school 9th grader or middle school 6th grader, and then identify what that school is going to expect, and then begin to develop your set of strategies accordingly. Colleges will tell you what they're looking for in terms of your transcript, your test scores, your recommendations. And again, this is Amherst College. Amherst is the #2 ranked liberal arts school in the United States. And right here it says, we give the greatest weight to your academic transcript, the rigor of your courses you've taken, the quality of your grades, and the consistency with which you've worked over 4 years to give us the clearest indication of how well you would do at Amherst. And then the colleges will also tell you, because the question always that I hear from parents, should my child take dual enrollment, AP, or IB? And again, it depends on what's the trajectory you want to pursue. If you're planning to pursue a state university or community college, then dual enrollment credits, you receive credits here in the state of North Carolina. If you're pursuing a state university outside of North Carolina, oftentimes we see students who will receive dual enrollment credits at those state universities, but at schools like Harvard and Princeton and MIT and Williams and Amherst, you don't receive any credit for dual enrollment classes. And many of the schools won't even give you credit for AP exams or AP classes. But when they do, they post it right on their website. They post the AP classes that they offer credit for, just like this. It's on all the colleges' website. It says if you took computer science A and you had a 5, 4, or 3 on the exam, then you will receive 3 credits for the class. And so you can identify all of that now as you're planning your course schedule for next year and how you're going to move through high school. So here's the question. And this is why I developed these for you to go home and to really look at. Every counselor, when a senior applies to college, the common application will ask a high school counselor, did the student take on-level, rigorous, or most demanding in their schedule? And so These are choices. On level, Common Core 1, Common Core 2, Common Core 3, pre-calculus. Accelerated to Common Core 1 in middle school, into high school, Common Core 2, Common Core 3, pre-calculus and calculus. Then rigorous, honors Common Core 3, honors pre-calculus, AP calculus, AP statistic. Rigorous through dual enrollment, honors Common Core 3, honors pre-calculus, college calculus, and college statistics. So again, it's simply, and you have these examples in your handout. You just need to decide what is the level that you want. But again, what's the grade that you want to get? Thank you. You want to get a B or higher. I know you want to get an A, but you want to make sure you get a B or higher. You don't want to take a class that you think you're going to be at risk of getting a C in the class. So you want to get a B or higher. So then in the social studies, again, I provide you with this example in terms of social studies classes through the AP pipeline or through dual enrollment. I provide examples of English language arts, AP, and dual enrollment. And then foreign language, accelerated, rigorous, dual enrollment. Because you don't have to take foreign languages in North Carolina, at least my understanding from looking at the North Carolina website. Now, if colleges are admitting students internationally, I would never opt not to take a foreign language. That's what I personally wouldn't do. I would want to become proficient in a foreign language, because one of the advantages you want to take advantage of in college is the opportunity to study abroad. Our youngest son, he spent a summer in Spain in a Spanish immersion program. Most of our students are going to spend time in Costa Rica, Spain, or Cuba, or other parts of the world. So I would strongly encourage you to take foreign languages. And then if you want to use summer programs to further your academic enrichment, you know, what types of programs can you take during the summer between middle school and high school? You know, can you take programs that offer you an opportunity to expand your math and your science? So again, I just want you to have these conversations. I want to provide this example of how all these things come together. This is one of our students in Georgia. Now, she started ninth grade with a plan. And she started ninth grade with a plan because she saw the challenges that her older sister, a high school senior now, is having with getting accepted into all the colleges that she would like to apply to. So she started ninth grade, and she took the most rigorous schedule at her high school, and she finished the first semester with straight A's. One of the programs that she applied to just recently is a Harvard Debate Council diversity project, and she was one of only 2 ninth graders who were accepted into the program. We had other students who applied, but they were not accepted into the program. And this is what's going to happen to her over the course of 4 years of high school now. So in her plan, she has started ninth grade with a 4-year opportunity to be involved in this program. She's also a track and field athlete. So she runs the 200, the 400, and the 800. So what she's doing, and she's developing her brand, is threefold. She is a track and field athlete who's very good. She's exceptional. She's going to be involved in this debate council project for 4 years so that she develops exceptional communication skills. She has taken the most rigorous coursework at our high school with the intention of being a straight A student. So academically, she's going to be exceptional. And she's already planning to assume leadership roles in the debate project, on her track and field team, and in community service. You know, this is a program, and again, the reason I'm showing these videos is that what I want to give you a sense of is how competitive it is to be admitted into these types of programs, but what these programs do in terms of the opportunities that they provide for young people. Okay, so one of our students, she went through high school. She took all of the computer science classes offered in her high school that ended with AP Computer Science. She did well in all that coursework. She had the grades and the test scores. She was offered the presidential scholarship to Xavier University of Louisiana. Her first semester, even before Christmas break, she received an internship at Google in Seattle with a friend who's attending Xavier, and they would be out there all summer. So these trajectories are possible when you give thought to, again, I'm going back to what are your passions and what is it that you want to do. You know, academically, math and science and social studies and language arts, you know, that's all laid out for you, North Carolina standards. But what I want you to think about is what if in your electives, you focus your electives? Instead of taking a bunch of different classes, what if you focus your electives on your gifts and talents? How could you navigate your way into certain colleges and universities? You know, what if your gifts and talents were in art or music or theater or even in math and science, but what if you focus your electives at expanding your learning opportunities in those areas? So I want to talk for a moment about my oldest son. My oldest son has graduated from college, but when he was in high school, my wife and I did a couple of things. One, we met with his counselor and we laid out his 4-year high school schedule. And we laid it out within context. He was a 3-sport varsity athlete. He played lacrosse, pardon me. He played football, he ran track and field, but he was a brilliant artist. The thing that we tracked when he was in high school is his high school was 50% black. And we tracked the number of black students in these higher level classes. And in most of these classes, our son was the only guy. So by taking this level of coursework, honors algebra, honors pre-cal, honors physics, honors economics, honors bio, honors organic, honors Spanish, AP computer science, AP environmental science, AP US history, AP studio art, AP two-dimensional art, AP Spanish, AP psychology, he was able to position himself by being exceptional because he branded himself as a scholar athlete. He took the most rigorous schedule in his high school while playing varsity sports, but this was his hook. This is what he did from elementary school. We discovered this in kindergarten. So what we did with our son throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school is we provided opportunities for him to go to art programs during the summer. He had already published a line of note cards when he was, before he left middle school, and he had an AP studio art and AP two-dimensional art portfolio that he submitted to college, and he was accepted to Amherst College early decision because that was his focus. So now, for you, here's what I'm saying to you. This is how you entered high school. It's just a blank sheet of paper. There's nothing on it. You get to determine what goes on it. But what I want you to understand is that there are over 25,000 high schools in the United States. Those students are going to be graduating from high school, applying to college when you apply to college. So you get to determine over 4 years of high school, what does this look like? And I want to give you a sense of the power that you have. That's what tonight is about. I want to give you a sense, and then I'm going to take questions, answer any questions you might have. Here's one of our students who we started working with at our church in the 3rd grade, who entered middle school, and she said, Mr. Wynn, my mother can't afford to pay for me to go to college. I need a full scholarship. So she entered middle school with a plan to take the most rigorous classes, to get the highest grades. And then this was a high school schedule that we helped Kimberly lay out in the 6th grade. So in the 6th grade, we identified the most rigorous high school schedule that was allowed at her high school in Paulding County, Georgia. These in yellow are classes she took online. So she took PE and health online. She had other enrichment classes so that she could concentrate her school day in the most rigorous honors and AP classes that were offered in high school. Now, it's one thing to take the classes. That's why I said you got to determine what could I get a B or better. So she took the classes, and this is where she wound up. She started 9th grade with this schedule. She had straight A's in every class. She ended 12th grade, a perfect 4.0 scale, 33 on the ACT, ranked number 2 out of 470 students in her high school. And this is what that blank sheet of paper looked like for her. So what I'm saying to you is that when she applied to college, she determined this is the type of college applicant I want to be. I need a full scholarship. I don't need to wait until I'm a senior to talk about a full scholarship. I know I need a full scholarship right now, and this is what I'm going to look like, so I get it. And this is what she did. She had all sorts of honors at our church and at our school. And again, She took 14 AP classes, 8 honors classes, and she's at Williams College. She just finished her first semester. So here's what that meant for Kimberly. What it meant is that Kimberly was offered admission to Williams College, which is $53,550 a year. Room and board is $14,150. Books and supplies, $800. Personal expenses, about $2,200. Travel allowance is $600. So the total budget to attend Williams College is $70,800. Most of us, including our family, we don't have $70,000. But Williams College is one of those schools that's need-blind, need-based in their admissions and their financial aid policy. So here's what that meant for Kimberly. It meant that she qualified for the Pell Grant because she's identified as low income. Pell Grant is $5,900. That still leaves a huge gap. She qualifies for work studies so that she can work a campus-based job. And then Williams College said, all right, we got your back. The Williams College scholarship is worth $60,555 for each year. But that's only part of it. They pay her travel expenses twice a year to leave Williamstown, Massachusetts, to return back to Georgia. So her parent contribution is $2,000. Her total scholarship is $242,220. But this was comparable everywhere that she was admitted. Vanderbilt offered the same financial aid package. Princeton offered the same financial aid package. Amherst and Swarthmore, Washington and Lee, they all offered the same financial aid package. Here's one of the students from Guilford County, who was part of our Guilford County cohort. We started working with her last January. And it was late in the game. She was a high school junior, but she took ownership of her course schedule based on what options she had. So she took college classes and AP classes. She wound up with a 4.5 on a 4.0 scale, 33 on the ACT, class rank was 7. Her body of work, she filled in this paper. She identified the things that she was good at, that she was passionate about, so that she could get a comparable full college scholarship. And for her, she was offered admission to Amherst College. I mentioned this at my last meeting, that Brenda was offered admission to Amherst, but she hadn't received her award letter. So Amherst is very comparable to Williams, $54,000, $14,000 room and board, $1,000 for books, $2,200 personal expenses, $600 travel allowance. Budget is $72,300. She received some Pell Grant, some work study, and the Williams College grant is worth $63,140, $5,600 cost to her family, and her grant, her Amherst College grant is worth $252,000. So again, when I go back to the beginning, develop your course schedule within context. Where do you want to go to college? And then identify the classes, what are the grades and the test scores that you need, and also identify scholarships. Let me ask a question. How many students, I want to ask the students, how many parents would like your students to get scholarships? Okay, so then, pardon me. Since the parents know that the students need scholarships, then the scholarship search has to start now. The challenge that we have every year is that high school seniors are looking for scholarships after they get accepted into college. The reason the scholarship search should start now is that if you're in the room and you know you need a full college scholarship, you can identify these things easily. At Tuskegee, one of our students has already been offered the presidential scholarship to Tuskegee. It was very clear. She needed a 3.5 GPA and a 30 on the ACT, and it's a full scholarship. So if you can identify that as a 9th grader, then you know what you need to do over the course of high school to get that scholarship. But there are all sorts of scholarships that you can identify. The QuestBridge Scholar. QuestBridge is a program for students from lower income backgrounds that match students to the most selective colleges and universities in the United States. The Gates Millennium Scholar, the Gates Scholarship now, it's no longer the Gates Millennium Scholar Program. The Posse Foundation. The Posse Foundation scholars receive full tuition. One of our students just received a full tuition scholarship to George Washington. That's worth over $250,000. The Coca-Cola scholars, the Stamp scholars, Jack Kent Cooke scholar, the Sally Mae Bridging the Dream scholarship. You have to be nominated for that. So if you identify that today, then that means that you would identify who you would want to write your nomination in the future. So again, you have the opportunity to identify all of these scholarships now so that you're working your way through high school pursuing these scholarships. The Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Young Scholars Program is for students starting in 8th grade. So again, there's no need for you to wait until you're a high school senior. Identify this stuff now so that you know what you're working toward, and then identify the types of students who are being awarded these scholarships so that you make yourself that type of student. Again, the college program is an undergraduate scholarship program. And again, all of these are pretty, they're easy to find. Now, when it comes to ACT and SAT planning, identify one test or the other. Since North Carolina supports the ACT, ACT is a good test to do. But don't try to do both tests. Students who try to do both tests, they tend not to raise their scores on either test. And it's analogous to, are you a swimmer or are you a golfer? If you're a golfer, it takes a different set of strategies to be successful. If you're a swimmer, it takes a different set of strategies. So commit to the test. Take a full-length practice ACT, full-length practice SAT. Which test did you score highest? And which test do you feel most competent in closing the knowledge gaps? What we say to students is take the full-length practice, identify what you don't know, go to school the next day and talk to every subject area teacher. Say, look, I took this test and I didn't know this math. I took this test and I didn't know this reading. I took this test and I didn't know this English. I took this test and I didn't know this science. Are you going to be teaching that? Or should I have learned that stuff in middle school? I need to know. And then you just commit. And also I'll say this to all the students and all the parents. If you are not a good test taker and you've just resolved, I am not going to have a high score, no need to keep beating yourself up. Pursue test optional colleges. There are over 800 test optional colleges. But if you decide you're going to pursue a test optional college, you have to understand when a college does not ask for your test scores, they're expecting something else. They're expecting leadership. They're expecting service. They're expecting that you worked hard in your classes. Yeah, they're not asking for your test scores. They're expecting that you're going to have a body of work in support of what you have done. And then if you want to do well on the test, identify a tutor. Get involved in the test prep program. You could do the College Board program for the SAT, which is being managed by Khan Academy. You can go to ACT.org and do the ACT prep. And if your high school offers a test prep class, then take it. But you can't do well in prep if you're not going to work at it. You know, I go back to the first video that I showed. If you're expecting to go to school, sit down, the test prep tutor gets up in front of the class and lectures to you, you can sit there for 6 weeks. You're not going to do any better. You have to go and want to engage. You have to go, pardon me, and want to know. And again, this is what it looks like with the SAT prep. There's all sorts of opportunities you have on the Khan Academy website. The ACT prep, all sorts of opportunities you have there. And then test optional colleges. These are great colleges and universities. So I go back to the very beginning. And now I'm going to answer any questions you might have. Where am I? Right where I wanted to be. I said when we started, you have to do your course schedule within context. So any young people want to volunteer? What type of colleges do you want to attend? Okay, they won't talk to me. What about the parents? What kind of, oh, yes, sir.
I'm gonna give him this mic right here.
Okay, good. Am I okay? Are you able to keep up with me?
I want to go to ECU.
ECU. So that's Eastern Carolina. Okay. Do you need any money? Okay. So here's what I want to say to you. I appreciate ECU. ECU is a great school. What I need you to do is go to the ECU website, identify the scholarships that ECU offers, and then I need you to just have a willingness to expand your thinking. And my question to young people is always, if you could get a full scholarship at another school and ECU was going to cost your parents $12,000 a year, would you force that burden on your parents, or would you just go to another school? Are you saying that because your parents are sitting right next to you? So what I'm saying to you there, what grade are you in? Okay, so what I need you to do is, are you a good student academically? You say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You say that again.
I'm balancing grades and not.
So you're balancing. Could you become a better student if you knew scholarship money was on the table?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you have not been an intrinsically motivated student all the time?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that occasionally you were like in that first video, you only did what you were told to do? Okay. And would it be fair to say that when your teachers offered extra credit, you didn't always do the extra credit?
I will do all the extra.
Oh, so you will do that. All right. So what I'm saying to you now is go home and do research on other colleges and go to their websites and try to identify the types of scholarships that they offer. And maybe you qualify for scholarship money that you don't even know about. But the other thing I would say is if you're in the 11th grade, now you only have this one semester to really demonstrate to a college that this was the old me before this year, and this is the new me. And so for this, from now to the end of the year, do you have the ability to get straight A's?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can do that, and if you can make a commitment to test prep, then you can put yourself in, well, we say to every student, every junior, we want your highest test score by June of your junior year, and we want at least a 3.0 GPA. 3.5 would be great, but 3.0 would be good. And then if colleges see that you change significantly in the second semester, I think your college opportunities will greatly expand.
I just started my research with like the life after high school project on my teacher.
Okay, so you're already well into the ECH pathway.
Yep, I choose that university because I have what I needed.
Okay, but then you just told me that if you had a full scholarship, even though you have what you needed, you go somewhere else. Are you changing your mind already?
I don't want to keep burning on my parents.
Okay, I understand. So all that I'm saying is that if you concentrate on your grades and test scores, you may have other options and opportunities. But even if you're committed to ECU, then I would say let's spend some time now trying to identify private scholarships that are based on your gifts and talents, the things that you're good at. They don't have to be academic scholarships. They can be leadership or service or whatever else. That's what I'm suggesting we do as well. Okay? Very good. Any parent with a question? Yes, ma'am.
I understand what he was looking, what you can get from different schools, but I know it's expensive applying to the school. Do you know what the average cost is for the school?
Okay, so the question is, what's the average cost? Here in North Carolina, students have the opportunity to take advantage of the cost-free application week, where they can apply to North Carolina schools without any application fees. Other schools will offer students application fees when they visit the campus. So I would say whenever you visit a college, you can always ask them for an application fee waiver. Students, of course, from lower income backgrounds, they qualify automatically for application fee waivers. And then when you initiate contact, colleges track contact. So if a student emails Duke as an 8th grader, Duke is going to have that history. And many colleges will offer application fee waivers just from the students who are really good, attractive candidates for their school because they want them to apply. So many of our students, they don't pay very much in application fees because they receive so many waivers. Yes, ma'am.
You attend a very competitive high school. Is it true that certain colleges will only admit a certain number of kids from that particular school?
Yes, it's not, and it doesn't just have to be a competitive high school. At many of the selective colleges, universities, outside of state institutions, there's an easy metric that most counselors can track of how many students in North Carolina were admitted to UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Wilmington, and so forth. But for many selective schools out of state, because there are 25,000 high schools and they can't admit them all, many of them will only offer admission to 1 or 2 students in a high school. So here's the real question in a competitive high school that I believe that we should understand. There are students who do not have competitive grades and test scores in their high school, but they're still offered admission to highly selective colleges and universities. And so the question would be, well, Mr. Wynn, how does that happen? Because that college needs a tailback, or that college needs someone to play rugby, or that college needs someone on the swim team. So when a student is in a competitive high school, it's important for them to differentiate themselves by developing unique gifts and talents. So I'll give you this as some example. We have a student in Georgia who's a fencer, but she's African American. So she's distinguished herself. She's one of the only black fencers in the state of Georgia. We have some other students who are swimmers. They're black swimmers. There was a video posted on Facebook recently. I don't know if any of you all saw it. The black guy and the black lady, they were ice skaters. Any of you all see that? You all use social media? So what I'm saying is that if a student can distinguish themselves within that group, they can get accepted in a selective school or get offered admission even when peers with higher grades and test scores were not offered admission. So what I would say to a student is, what is your hook? A lot of young people struggle with that concept. Your hook is, what is it that makes you exceptional? Is it your athleticism? Is it your grades and test scores? Is it that you attend a church and you've gone on 3 mission trips? Or is it that you created a nonprofit and you're collecting blankets for the homeless? So students need to give that some thought to differentiate themselves from other students. I was at Williams College and I was speaking with an admission officer, and they had offered admission to several students from a private boarding school when normally they don't offer multiple admissions to schools like that. And I said, well, why did you? He said, because they are so exceptional. They write, the level of writing is so good that we know they can succeed in this program. And there are a lot of other schools that we wouldn't offer admission to any student. So I would say to any student in a competitive high school, they should distinguish themselves through their essays. They should identify their core story now, and they should work on articulating that core story in 650 words when it's time to apply to college.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes?
Is it ever advisable to go to like GTCC for 2 years and then transfer to
Absolutely. What is important for us to understand is, let's talk strategically. For some young people who have gone through high school and they're not prepared academically, or they're not prepared emotionally, or their parents are just not prepared financially for them to go off to a 4-year college or university. There's no need for a young person to go to a 4-year college or university, put their parents $60,000 in debt when they could go to GTCC and start their program. But what we say to those students is, put a transfer agreement in place when you start. Community college graduation rates are low throughout the country. Their transfer rates are low throughout the country because many students start, but they don't start with a plan. So what we say is, articulate the plan so everyone knows. You have to talk with the counselor at the school you're planning to transfer to. You talk to the counselor at the school that you're attending now. You know exactly the grades and the test scores and the coursework, and then you go through. We have a lot of students that do that. It is an extraordinary opportunity for young people to get their footing in college. Oftentimes they're still staying at home, so they're able to make this emotional development as they go through their first 2 years. And then the second, and also this, young people can go to GTCC, be a straight A student, and get admitted to Harvard. Now, the odds are low, but they're there nevertheless. There are schools, highly selective schools, that look at students who have distinguished themselves. So what we say to students is, you don't know what the future holds. Just start and be exceptional. Don't go in and just sort of do your work. Go in planning to be at the head of each class and to do exceptional work. And it can be a perfect plan. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Is there like a state resource to find out more about the summer enrichment programs?
Our website, I think it's in the handout. I'm not sure. It's access, ACCESS, AND, equity, EQUITY.org. That's our foundation. And on the blog page on our foundation, we have categories. So we have categories for summer programs, for high school, and for middle school students, and for college students, and leadership programs and internship. You can spend a lot of time on our website. I'm disappointed. I don't have young people who now have an epiphany, who are saying, now I think I understand what I want to do. Tell me how to do it. You're an expert from Atlanta. You're in the room. You're sick, but you came here anyway. Tell me what I need to do. Here's where I am, and this is where I want to go. You know, now I want parents to understand what you're witnessing right now. Here's one of the problems why many of our young people don't have a chance to get accepted in the highly selective colleges and universities, because they cannot articulate themselves. They have these, when the Posse Foundation, when they have their interviews, they bring several hundred students into a room. And in each Posse region, there are 5 institutions. So in Atlanta, Bard College, Texas A&M, Syracuse, George Washington, Brandeis, and I think there's one more. So all the admission officers are in the room, and they bring all the students in, and they watch them. That's all they're doing. They're watching them. They're watching how they interact with other students. They're watching if they go sit off in a corner by themselves. They're watching, and then they have these activities, and they're looking for leaders. They're looking for the student who wants to lead the activity, the student who draws everyone else into the conversation. And those are the students who get these scholarships. These schools, out of those several hundred students who are in the room, they only offer 10 scholarships. Each Posse school identifies 10 students in that room. Every year, our students are selected because we have to go through this process of helping them to understand these opportunities don't present themselves very often. And when the opportunity is there, I go back to that first video. I really want you to understand, we do a college planning cohort program nationally, and we have a lot of students who are involved in our program. But what they struggle with is autonomy. Because in our program, we don't grade assignments. We assign activities, and then the students are responsible for engaging in research. And then they're responsible for writing up a summary of what they learned. But what many students can't get beyond is, I'm not getting a grade. I'm not doing this work if I'm not getting a grade. Mr. Wynn, you're not going to give me a grade. And so if we can't break that thinking, they are going to struggle. Many colleges have interviews. And parents, you have to be honest about your child. Some of you know your child should never interview with anybody. And so what that says to you is, don't apply to a college where you have to interview. But I will also tell you this, and I'll say this to the students. And I go back to the point that the other parent asked me about competitive schools. I can go to a school where there's a student with a 3.0 GPA and a 19 on the ACT. And in that school, there are other students with perfect GPAs, 33 on the ACT. And I tell you, that student will get offered admission with nobody else, because that student walks into the room and is confident and is able to explain. That student walks in the room and says, you know, my ACT score would have been higher, but nobody told me that it was important. Now it's too late because I'm president of Beta Club and president of student government, and I'm involved in the chorus and in the ensemble, and I don't have time to worry about raising my test scores. But if you look at my transcript, you see how hard I have worked in school. And also, I come from a family of 10 with a single parent mother, but I've never made an excuse. I go to school to work. I got these big dreams. I want to go to Harvard, and I want to go to law school, and I want to come back home and change my community. That student is walking out of that room with that scholarship. The 4.0 student with the 33 ACT score is going to sit there and say, well, I'm smart. You got to develop these skills. It's critically important to develop these skills. Yes, sir. You have a question?
My daughter goes there. She does great. She's doing well the last couple of years. She does a lot of volunteering. She's good at singing, things like that. I did enjoy the part of the film where it talked about the Harvard debate class that helps with communication. Because I think that's so important to communicate. She's well at the verb that communication. So I know that's a good plan. Are there other plans out there? Because, I know you can relate to me through maybe around the same age. But in school, sometimes I didn't want to raise my hand. Others wanted to raise their hands because they were afraid to.
Yes.
So I saw you ask the question. I see you not feeling well. When we came on out here, I just got out of work, but I want to know because I want myself to treat you better than mine. Okay? So I want to know, are there other plans out there, other big things out there that you can get involved in other than the Harvard? I know there are.
Right.
Advocate about other things. Because we live in a world today where there's a lot of texting going on, a lot of emailing, but there's not a lot of one-on-one conversation. Okay, I'm a baby boomer, so I know that one-on-one that's so important, that communication. What I want to know is just to sharpen the skills up. She's good at talking, but just to sharpen the skills up. Are there other forces or things to be involved in to help?
Okay, yes. And before I answer your question, I want to say this to all the young people since you mentioned something. If you want to post to Facebook how great tonight is, you can. Don't post, Mr. Wynn was lame, I don't want to be there. If you got something nice to say, post it. Send it out in Snapchat. Tell your friends, man, you should have been here. Parents, if you want to take pictures of anything, just, we want to make this social, we want to blow this thing up, social media. But the summer programs are critical. And here's the way to do it. You identify the areas that you want your child to be exposed to, and use that as part of the internet search phrase. So summer programs, speech and debate summer programs, athletic summer programs, art summer programs, and you just start, you're going to come up with millions of results. And then what you also want to do is use different search engines, because if you use Google as a search engine, you'll get one set of results. If you use DuckDuckGo, that's one of my favorite search engines, you'll get different results. If you use Bing, you'll get different results. So you can just use different search engines. And when you identify those programs, just start corresponding with them. This is the time you got to do it, because many of those programs, the application process is open now. And also, when you go to our website, as I said again, accessandequity.org, on the right side of our blog page are categories. And the categories provide summer programs, pre-college programs, internships, and so forth. And what will happen oftentimes is you'll find you do all this research, and all you need is that one program that your child goes back to every summer. So for our boys, they did the Summer Institute for the Gifted for 3 years during middle school, then in high school. They did football camps and AAU track and field camps in high school. Our son did art programs at the High Museum of Art in Georgia. Our younger son did music programs at Georgia State and at UGA and at Florida State. I'm telling you, colleges, they're in the business of offering these summer programs. Now, the other thing that I want you to do is, once you identify a summer program, then I also want you to perform a search on the name of the program with the word reviews. College Confidential is a good website that parents and students post reviews about these programs, because no one has time to pay all this money and to have a bad experience for their child. So you really want to hear what other people say who have attended these programs. Oh, you're saying, my wife said it's time for me to be quiet, and I give the mic back to you.
All right, can we give Mr. Wynn a round of applause tonight?